Alright everybody, so you can see the E93 is back up on the lift and we flipped it around because the engine is likely coming out. So after the last video, I ended up just going to bed and waking up in the morning and working on it. And so when I woke up in the morning, I cleared the codes and decided to restart it to see if that would clear the misfire. And when I went to restart it, I immediately got a coolant low warning, and so I shut it off. So it was on for like a second maybe. And so what I ended up doing was I checked the oil immediately. I pulled off the filter. I'll show you guys a picture of what it looked like. It was just pure coolant. There was no oil in there, nothing. So I imagine what happened was there is actually a hole somewhere in this block. So the mechanic was right, I was wrong. And when the car warmed up, it opened up that hole or whatever failure there was around cylinder 3, letting coolant into the combustion chamber, causing the misfire. And since the car was warm from the 20 or 30 mile drive that I had it, when I parked it and I let it sit, since the coolant tank is the highest part of the cooling system and the failure was likely on the block, which is lower, it drained into the oil pan. And so I actually looked in the oil pan, I took off the drain plug, and it was pure water. So that water had gone straight into the oil pan and settled at the bottom. And when I turned it on, it sucked right up into the oil filter. So I'm pretty sure since the coolant tank is higher than the oil filter housing, we can rule out the fact that the oil filter housing is not the problem because it is higher. So, yeah, the oil filter housing is higher than the coolant tank. So the water, while the car was sitting overnight, the water wouldn't travel up and through the gasket down back into the engine. It would find the least path, or the path of least resistance, which would be the failure inside the block. So, but this engine is going to have to come out. There's no getting around it, especially since the water went straight into the filter and into the bearings. The rod bearings or something is probably shot. So I'm ready to call this engine done. So right now I'm going to just start draining out the fluids, whatever coolant, if there is any left, out of the cooling system, and drain the oil and start taking apart the top of the motor. So this probably won't be as much of a DIY. I'll kind of tell you guys what I'm working on and just time lapse it. But I think for most people it's probably more entertaining to just watch me work on this car than for me to explain in depth each and every bolt. So yeah, I mean, I bought this car knowing that it had a blown engine, so I'm not disappointed really that much. I was excited that I might have been able to fix it for cheap, but we'll take this route. So we'll get this N54 out and we'll continue this build. So I'll stop talking and we'll get this taken apart. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the wheels off and take these fender liners out. That way we can start taking the bumper and the whole front clip off. So we'll get on to that. Alright, so I got the fender liners off on both sides. And now next we'll take off the bumper. So we've got the front bumper off, the headlights out, we've got all the wheel well stuff. I just got the radiator out. The AC condenser is still in there, but next I'm just going to start disconnecting the wire harness along the front and move it back towards the body. So we're making some good progress. I don't know that I'll get it out tonight, but maybe in the next video we'll have it completely out. Got the whole front clip off the car. Next I'm going to take off the intake manifold so I can start peeling back the wiring harness. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy some 80s and 90s music, and I'm going to keep plugging away on this. Alright everybody, so that's going to be for part one of the engine removal. I wasn't really kind of sure what style to do, so maybe on the next one I'll do it more vlog style. But so far we have the starter out, we have the intake out. We have the whole front clip off, and next we're going to be taking off all of the engine harness from the DME, and we're going to disconnect the AC compressor, the power steering, and then we'll remove the transmission bolts. And then we should, outside of some ground straps and a few other things, we should be ready to pull this out. So gonna probably have to make a trip to Harbor Freight to get a few things, but we're ready to go. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button, drop a like on the video, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm just really trying to show you no love. Say you tired and you need a new love.